Good afternoon. Welcome to today's CI Tools webinar. My name is Josh Osborne, and I'm the product manager for the CI Tools here at Central Innovation. And this is our weekly CI Tools webinar where we look at stuff to do with CI Tools. If you've been tuning in the last few weeks, if you've been watching the stream the last couple of weeks or months, you probably know that we have been doing a run through of basically all of the tools in ArchiCAD 28 so that we have up-to-date recordings available for all of those tools. We've pretty much gone through all of the tools now, I believe, in 28. So at this stage, I'm thinking that maybe for the next sort of series of webinars that we go over, we will try and, I guess, look at parts of tools that we don't often dive into in detail for these webinars or something like that. I'm not quite sure exactly yet. If you have any feedback about what you'd like to see, I would welcome that. But yeah, I think that we'll go over some of the stuff that maybe people don't know about or that sort of thing in the tools and see if that sort of thing is useful to you. So today what we're going to do is have a look at the detail elements tool. So what I'll basically do is I'll just run through all of the objects in the detail elements tool. You likely already know what the tool is. So this will be more as a way of showing you what's available so that if you are ever in a situation where you're drawing up something that would be that these would be useful for, you will be able to remember, oh, I remember back a while ago, I saw that this object exists in the detail elements tool. So that's what we're going to look at today. But yeah, if you have any suggestions for other stuff you'd like to see covered, I would love to hear from you, mostly just because I've kind of run out of ideas of what we should show during these. And I'm not quite sure what people don't know already or what people want to know more about. So that would be great. But otherwise, yeah, we'll look at doing some sort of lesser known parts of the tools and that sort of thing. So yeah, so we're going to look at the detail elements tool today. I'm going to be working in ArchiCAD 28, but the way the detail elements work has been the same for quite a while now. So if you're using an older version of ArchiCAD, you will have essentially the same thing, barring some slight user interface changes in plenty of older versions. If you have any questions, just enter those in the chat panel as we go, and I'll answer those either as we go or at the end. And there was something else I was going to say. Oh, yes. For those of you who maybe haven't heard of detail elements or haven't used it, the detail elements tool used to be exclusive to New Zealand. A bit more recently, it has also been available to Australian customers as well who are on Select. And now if you are an international customer, or at least a customer in Australia and New Zealand who isn't on Select or on subscription, you can actually get the CI Tools premium subscription, and that includes the detail element tool as well. So if you are one of those groups of customers, you already have access to it. And if you aren't one of those, then you can get a trial by going to myci.centralinnovation.com/free trial. And that will get you up and running, and you can see if this tool or any of the others do what you would like. But yeah, let's get into the tool. So the first thing that you'll need to do is make sure that the tool is in your toolbox. It doesn't work via the object tool. It has its own toolbox tool called the detail element tool here. You can see it. It's the first item here under my document part of the toolbox. If you don't already have it there, then there are two ways to add it. If you installed the CI Tools work environment when you installed your tools, it would have been one of the options in the installer. You can go to Options, Work Environment, Apply Profile, and choose the CI Tools profile. It'll be called this or some variation of it in whatever ArchiCAD version you're in. If you're in an older version, it'll be called the CAD Image Tools profile. and then whatever version it's for, just apply that and that will put the tool in your toolbox. If you don't have that, or if you don't want to do it that way, you can manually add it by going to Toolbox, and then when you are selecting the item that you want to place somewhere, scroll down to the bottom of the list and you will see detail elements. Here it's 6th from the bottom, it looks, or 7th from the bottom rather. Select this one and drag it into whichever toolbox part you want it to be put into. So this is where it is for ours, but you can put it wherever you like. And once you've got it in there, you'll be ready to go. So what does the detail element tool do for any of those who haven't actually used it before? Why would you want to? So as you can probably guess by the name, the detail element tool is a tool which gives you a bunch of detail elements. It's pretty much as straightforward as that. There's no extra tricks to it, except for the fact that all of the detail elements are very parametric and configurable using the user interface for them, as well as in their placement using hotspots to move things around. So what this means is that you can place down a pre-drawn part of a detail drawing or an element of a detail drawing, if you will, and then modify it to fit the shape or area that you need it to be in without having to do a bunch of redrawing and that sort of thing. It will just take care of a lot of things for you, like repeating sections and that sort of thing. So I'm going to go into my detail element tool here, open that up, and you can see that the tool is divided into a series of 10 folders, each of them covering a different area. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go through and have a look at everything that's available so that you have a rough idea of what we have there. We'll go into detail on a few of them, but not all of them. Most of them are pretty self-explanatory. So starting with general, we start off with the custom profile 2D. And what this element does is that it will allow us to place a 2D drawing of any profile in our project. So if we open up the selection here, we can choose any profile that is in the project we're working in. So rail, wood on steel, you can see the view of it there. We can choose to rotate it or multiply it. We can also override the attributes if you like by going to custom. And then we can place that down. And it'll give us a nice 2D view of that profile. So it's just a nice and quick and easy way of doing that. If you have profiles for some of the things that you want to see in your details or sections or anything like that, that you're wanting to do 2D markup on, then this is a good way of doing that. Before I go on, actually, that reminds me, one other thing that I generally like to mention here as well is that obviously with detailing in ArchiCAD and section views and that sort of thing, we do, the ideal always is to do as little 2D additional work as you can in your projects, because obviously you'd want it to be, the detail to be coming from the model and not for you to have to do a bunch of extra work to get it. However, in most cases, there's always something that you will need to add in manually, because not everything is or should be modeled to the full extent. Custom profiles, there quite often will be cases where when you cut through those, you'll get exactly what you want, but there's certain cases where it won't, especially when we get further down into some of the other items down here. So yeah, so obviously we're not saying that you should use 2D detailing for everything. The goal is still to do as little of that as possible, but this tool is here for those cases when you need to do it and you want to get it done quickly. So that's the custom profile. Flashing profile, again, this one probably seems like it's very basic. It's just drawing a flashing profile for us, but essentially what it is doing here is it is taking away the work of having to maintain multiple parallel lines and that sort of thing, so that when you drag this around to when you want it to be, or say resize it, you come in here and say that actually the thickness should be 3 mils instead of 1. You don't have to do a bunch of offsetting and drawing in extra fills and that sort of thing. Just does it for you. So it's not doing anything particularly crazy. It's just doing it for you is kind of the goal here. And we can choose some parameters here as well. So the custom profile was pretty low on options because it's just showing a profile. But now we get into the actual benefits of the detail element tool, in that we can choose how all of these work, and it does quite a lot of the work for us. So we can just change the types of folds that we've got going there, and that's already done for us. We don't have to do any more to make that work. So you should be able to see as we go along um, the ways that it's going to be able to save you time in drawing up these sorts of things. Sure, it would probably only take you a minute or two to draw this by hand. Using the detail element tool, it takes you about 5 seconds, if that. And that's what we're going for. Insulation. This one is a 2D insulation. Obviously, you might want to use a line type for this. In a lot of cases, the detail element will allow you to do things that are difficult with the line type, which is why this is there. So we can choose how the insulation, what type of insulation we have, whether it's bats or solid. We can choose the length and thickness of the insulation, as well as the what we call the droop. So I can say 200 here, and it will add that in, so you can see it hanging down there. You can choose where it is anchored by, and we can override the attributes here. And once this is placed in our project, you'll also be able to see, and this will come up a lot on other detail elements, that we have dynamic hotspots all over this. So we can easily grab hold of this and dynamically adjust the droop. We could go up, we could go back to almost straight, or whatever we need there. And then we can also adjust the length of this as well, and it'll just stretch it out. So we don't need to worry about having the insulation spacing get messed up by that. It just stretches out the length and keeps doing that repeat as it goes. We can adjust the sort of offset of the droop here as well, so we can go in straight and then have it dropping down in the center there. And this one here will allow us to adjust the thickness in the actual view, which can be nice to do. Lining 2D, again, this one, similarly to the flashing profile, would be very simple and easy to draw. This just does it for you so that you don't have to worry about messing around with drawing on a mitre or adjusting the offsets or anything like that. It just does it for you. Again, saving you a few seconds in your projects on creation, and then saving you a few more while you're actually making edits. Composite lining, similar again. So we can choose how many linings we have, up to 8, and then we go through and define how each lining works. So this is useful for if you want to show a composite cut through something that you're not actually using a composite for. You can create your own here, essentially, define the gap, the thickness, and the fill that is shown in each lining, and it will draw that up for you. Steel Profile 2D is very similar to the Custom Profile 2D, only instead of using the custom profiles in the project, it is using a bunch of steel profiles that are preset in it. So you come in here and say, let's go PFCs, then we can choose the New Zealand standard PFCs, and then we choose the size, and it pre-sizes it to that thing that we chose. There's a whole lot of different options available here. So we can go through and choose the exact type, and it will give it to us. Or we can say custom profile here and go in and make changes to the dimensions ourselves. So with the Z pole in here, obviously we can adjust these parts. We change to a rolled angle, we can adjust the part that you see there. So you can do it entirely custom if you want to as well. The next two are similar again to the previous ones. These are just sections of things. So we've got a timber member in 2D. Lets us control how the member displays, what shape it should be, and the attributes for it. And the same for the polygonal timber member, which works in a very similar way, only it lets us modify the shape using a polygon edit. Moving on to floors. We've got a couple of repeating floor pieces here. So we've got a decking board here. It lets us choose what's on the top and the bottom, and then define the dimensions for those. You can see there's quite a lot of options for all of the different parts of the way this displays. And the advantage here is just that you won't have to set up a whole bunch of repeating things, copying and pasting or anything like that. You can just grab hold of the stretchy hotspot here and, whoops, clicked on the wrong thing there, and stretch it out to however long you want, and it'll just repeat over and over with the same part without you having to do much extra work to make that happen. The board profile is very similar, only it's for a board with a tongue on it instead of a decking board, but it works in the same way. It'll draw those up and then it'll let you stretch it out to whatever size you need it to be. And then the floor framing is similar again, so we can choose what kind of framing we want to display and if we want to add insulation to it. So we can go like this and then hit OK, and we get similar controls to what we have for some of the others here as well, so we can adjust the dimensions of various parts. How many joists we want, we can go up to 3 or down to 0. Adjust the spacing, the offset here, and the spacing this way. Oops. And we can also go through and choose completely different things here. So we can go vertical laminate and horizontal laminate, and then we could have cislation instead. Go OK, and it just does that for us. So again, saving you the time of having to draw that up yourself, but nothing particularly crazy. So that is the floors. These ones are some of the ones that are used, I would say, very often, because they just make it less hassle to have to deal with getting that done. Similar for the walls. The walls are also probably the most used ones. So we've got a bunch of things that will be useful for drawing up wall details. We've got a blockwork plan view 2D symbol, so it'll let us choose what shape of a block we want to use here, and then choose the number of cells that are in it, set the dimensions for them, choose if we want to have mortar on them, if we should be displaying pointing, whether they should be rounded or square, and the dimensions of those as well. And then we can choose the attributes over here. And then we can just grab the dynamic hotspot again and just drag it out to however long we need. And you can see it draws as much of the block as we need. So rather than stretching the block that we had into a way that wouldn't make it make sense anymore, it just repeats it over and over like all of the other ones we've looked at so far do as well. So if we change to a rebated jam, you will see that we've got that rebate there as well. And the what's the other one? The corner looks exactly how you would expect a corner to look as well. Blockwork in section is essentially the same thing, but we're looking at it in section view now instead, so we can define the various dimensions of each block. We can choose how the top and bottom blocks work, so we could say we're going to have the sill on top, and on the bottom we want to have let's go with the knock-in there. Actually, that's not a good choice for the bottom. There we go. Where the block should be cut, so when we stretch it out and it results in a knot hole block, whether that should be at the top or on the bottom, or on the bottom, and how the mortar rake should work, so what side it should be on. And we can place that down, and then we stretch that out to whatever we need it to. Just by going in here, and you can see it is repeating those blocks, but then at the top, which is what we had it set to, because we don't have a full block there, that is where the partial block is. And if we switch this around, that would be on the bottom instead. So if we go to base, it will rejig itself. So that you can see the half block is down, well, not half block, but the partial block is down here at the bottom instead of at the top. Obviously, the very top pieces are not affected by that because they're what we told them to do, but the actual full block, repeating block part, that gets placed at the top or bottom, depending on what you choose there. Bricks section 2D, again, very similar, but bricks this time. It works in pretty much the same way as the block does. Furring profile, we can choose what kind of profile we want to use. So by default, we've got these sort of rectangular bits, and we can adjust the offset and stretch it out to whatever size we want it to. But there's also a bunch of different channel types available. So we've got custom profiles at the moment, so it shows us all the profiles in the project. So we could, for instance, grab one of these and it will just repeat that along the length of it. Or we could change from a custom profile to two different types of furring profiles. We've got timber and rondos. And once we choose the type of those that we want, it will just repeat those across. And we can choose exactly what type we want as well. So we could say 48 mil, and it will do that for us. So it draws those up as it goes along. Change back to 28. We'll see those. Etc. And the timber ones look like this. So again, everything works in a very similar way. Once you get used to one of them, you'll be able to drive the rest of them because they all just base themselves on setting the right parameters and then resizing on the fly using the dynamic hotspots. All frame timber sections, same as the other ones we've seen, but for timber sections this time, timber framing rather. Wall boards, again, the same. It's a stretchy profile. So we choose, sorry, it's a stretchy piece of a repeating profile. So we choose the type that we want. You can see those there as I'm selecting them. And then once we have them placed, we can stretch those out. Obviously, in probably a lot of cases for people watching this, you'd be using our coverings, wall covering tool, hopefully, to get actual 3D ones of these that are cut. But if you're not doing that for some reason, then you can use these here. And then the wall frame section, again, is very similar to the other section parts that we've seen in here as well. Moving on to the roof. The roof essentially are broken up into roof accessories and then a lot of trusses. So we won't look at every single truss, but the roof parts, we've got a fascia board. It's just a simple fascia board, exactly what it sounds like. Gutter profile. Again, similar, we just choose what kind of gutter we want and set the dimensions. Bridge cap and roof cladding. Again, with a lot of these, hopefully you'll be using our covering still to do them. But if you're not doing that and you just want something quick and easy to do, this will handle it for you. And then the roof section 2D is, again, it's very similar to the wall section 2D. So we choose what we want to have. Let's say pressed metal tiles, and then we can stretch that out to have as many of those as we need, and we'll just repeat them across. And then we come to our trusses. Now you can see there's a whole bunch of these. All of them work in the same way. So we can choose the span, choose whether they're symmetrical, choose how the different parts of the geometry of them work and the dimensions. And then we place them down. So we've got the gable end, we've got a girder, jack truss, monopitch, rafter, scissor, and truncated girder. And then we also have a truss section as well. So if rather than looking at this part, you want to cut through a bunch of them, this will do the same. So we just define how the cuts should look, and this will do that for us as well. So again, useful if you are not modeling these up for whatever reason it is, that you can get this to sort of do that work for you. Ceiling just has the one, very similar to the floor, only the other way around, obviously. So we can choose how we want the battens to work on our profile, and then if we want to have insulation and how it should work and that sort of thing. So we could go like this, and that will place our battens there, and then the insulation fit in between them. Doors and windows just has two basic ones. Again, very simple little pieces of geometry, but handy as a quick way of producing the sealant bead or the glass for windows and doors. Interior trims is very similar again to some of the other ones with profiles. So we can choose what type of profile we want to use, how many edges it should have to it, and that sort of thing, and then just place down a pretty nice looking profile for that. So we've got a interior trim, a scotia, and a skirting available there. You can choose what type they specifically are once you choose them there. Just makes drawing that up nice and easy because it's just a standard shape that you'll probably want to use quite often. Fastenings gives us a bunch of fastening related things, obviously quite a few bolts up at the top there. So you can see we can choose what kind of bolt. And then once you choose the type of bolt that you want, we have a large amount of dimensions available for all of the parts of that bolt. So you can place very detailed details for all of your bolts in that way. And then also we have some joist hangers and some more nail here, a couple of different options for that. A nail plate here. We got some pile fixings, a post bracket, two different types of those. And when you choose the type that you want, you can also control the way that it works as well. A 2D rivet, similar again to the bolts and nails and things, and the screw also, and then the threaded rod also works in a similar way as well. So with the addition, you can add a bend to this one as well, and this controls how big the bend is and that sort of thing. So second to last folder, we've got reinforcing. So this one gives us a bunch of options for drawing up reinforcing, and these ones will let us control the shape of them in our actual view. So you can control the way that they work here, the dimensions for the various parts and that sort of thing. And then once you place them down, you can move them around to do what you need them to. So using the reinforced starter 2D here, you can see it has dynamic hotspots all over it, and we can grab hold of those and adjust this to do what we need it to. So we can add an angle in here and move it out to what we need. We can add in an extra node, which gives us a new leg, and then another over this way. Plenty of controls to how this all works. So you can draw up the reinforcing shape that you want it to, and all of the reinforcing have this to some extent as well. So if we use the cage, for instance, and go in here, we can grab hold of the hotspot here and stretch the sort of end part out there and that sort of thing. And then the last folder is symbols. These are just some handy 2D symbols that you might want to use. We've got a break line, which does exactly what it sounds like it was. You can choose whether you want them to be top and bottom, left or right, or any combination of those. It'll put a fill between the two of them, and you can define how that works as well. So it's good for drawing in those and masking whatever's underneath them. A cylindrical break line works exactly the same way, only it's for cutting through a cylinder instead. The roof pitch symbol, which will just show the pitch of a roof, just a nice, easy way of drawing that up without having to do dimensions or anything like that. And a weld symbol, it'll let you build up a weld symbol depending on what you want here. So we can choose the type, and then once we've got that, we can, using this sort of diagram here, choose how it should be drawn. So clicking on each part, you can choose what symbol to use there, and it will allow you to build up the exact type of symbol that you need. You can add labels and that sort of thing to it as well, and control the attributes like with all of the other detail elements. So that is a very quick tour of the detail elements tool. Hopefully, I don't expect anyone to remember every single object, obviously, but good to have had a look through so that you know in future, if you are drawing up some detailed drawings and you need to draw a bolt in, you don't have to spend the 10 to 15 minutes drawing up one manually or trying to find a DWG or something. You can just open the detail elements tool, select the bolt, and you're done already. Nice and quick, and saves you a bunch of time. All right, I'm going to quickly pause the screen share now and see if we have any questions before we finish up. All right. Okay, cool. So I've got a couple of suggestions for the next sessions. Thanks very much for that. That's great. And then some questions about the detail elements. So the bolt sizes, preset sizes. So as we saw, just go back to there. Hopefully my screen share actually is working this time. So you can choose the type of bolt, but we don't have any preset sizes in it at the moment. No, that probably would make quite a lot of sense. Actually, I'll put a suggestion in for that because yeah, I see where you're going with that. The way to get around it obviously would be to use favorites. You can create favorites of any of these like you can with anything else, so you could make a bunch of those relatively easily. But yeah, I think it would be a good idea to have that. These ones here have a couple of sort of preset, like you can define it as what type it is, but you still have full control over the main dimensions of it. So having something where you could just go through and choose like a code or something and it preset the sizings, yeah, I can see that would make a lot of sense. But no, you can't do it at the moment. And then the other question was, do the profile elements update when you modify the profile? And the answer to that is, I don't know, but let's try it out very quickly and see. So I'll place down a joist stretchy. And then let's see what it does. Joist stretchy. Okay. Yes, it does. Updated. I didn't even see when it updated. So yes, it will reflect those changes almost immediately, it looks like. Cool. All right. It looks like that is all the questions for today. So thanks for your time, everyone. If you have any other questions that you think of later, or if you have any other suggestions for future webinars, please send those through to nz.support@centralinnovation.com. I'd love to hear from you. And if you haven't tried out the tools already, head to myci.centralinnovation.com/free trial. You can get a trial of the tools there and try them out. Yeah, that's it for me otherwise. I hope you have a good holiday weekend if you're having one of those. And either way, I will catch you at the next one. Thanks.